We've been saying it for a while now, but tonight we mean it. This is the night.
17 they've given up is a better defensive total than we've seen in the past. They've been giving up.
Oh boy, here we go. Sell the team, they're saying.
And the Pistons losing streak has reached 25.
2-26, bad. No way are we that bad.
Breaking Cade Cunningham. You are breaking him down. You have destroyed their belief in their ability to win these games.
Are the Detroit Pistons the worst team in NBA history?
We had the bad boys, now we have the very bad boys. You have spit in the face of this proud franchise with this level of losing.
If they cannot beat that Jazz team who played 3 games in 4 nights on the back end of a back-to-back at your home arena, you're not winning another game. This is rock bottom.
Just last night, the Detroit Pistons lost their 25th game straight versus the Utah Jazz 119-111. To make matters even worse, this seemed like an absolute gimme of a win. They were at home, the Utah Jazz was on its second night of a back-to-back, and 4 of the Jazz's top 6 scorers were not playing in Lauri Markkanen, Jordan Clarkson, Keontae George, and Talen Horton-Tucker. With just 3:40 remaining in the game, Cade Cunningham would make 2 free throws, making it a 106-104 lead for the Jazz. Utah would then go on an 11-2 run, headlined by a dagger 3 from Kelly Olynyk to go up 7, who had 27 points in this game. There was one awful play I wanted to point out that just kind of sums up this Pistons team. Down only 4 points. Look at this awful turnover from Jaden Ivey on a key possession. This is the type of stuff that loses you 25 straight games. But the question is, just how bad is it for the Pistons? Fans were chanting fire Monty, their head coach, fire Weaver, their general manager, and sell the team as the clock counted down. Pistons beat reporter for The Athletic, James Edwards III, made a great point that the Pistons are 15th in attendance this season. The product they've put on the floor is just straight up unacceptable. I encourage you to get a subscription to The Athletic. The article is amazing, but I do want to share this powerful excerpt from his article. This is a historic franchise that loses its luster with each passing season. Detroit hasn't won a playoff game since 2008. The Pistons have made the playoffs just 3 times since then. One of the most decorated organizations in the history of the NBA has been living under the basement for almost 2 decades. That doesn't feel right. A reset is needed. Even though Detroit just started over a few years ago, it may need to start over again. This can't keep going on. Something has to change because the fans don't deserve this. The Pistons now sit with a record of 2-26, with their only wins on the season coming in back-to-back days in October versus the Charlotte Hornets and the Chicago Bulls. The NBA record for the most losses in a row in a single season is 26 games, which the Pistons are just 1 loss away from. This streak was set by both the 2010-2011 Cleveland Cavaliers and the 2014-2015 Philadelphia 76ers. The Pistons will play again tomorrow night versus the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn, then again at home just 2 days later. Will they be able to escape historic embarrassment and win one of the next 2 games? As of now, I don't think there's much of a chance they will or that they'll win anytime soon. If they can't beat a depleted, tired Jazz team at home in front of a packed crowd while their rising star Cade Cunningham had 28 points, 7 boards, and 9 assists, and his co-pilot Jaden Ivey had 24 points, 4 boards, and 7 assists, I'm not sure if they're beating anybody. Speaking of Cade, over the past 3 games, he's been averaging 32 points per game, 8 assists, 4 rebounds, 3 stocks on 57, 39, 86 splits, including a 43-point performance on 66% from the field versus the Hawks on Monday. Palace of Pistons podcast hosts Aaron Johnson and Jasper Apollonia had this to say after the loss versus the Jazz.
You look at their schedule and you don't know when the next win is coming. They are the laughingstock of the National Basketball Association, and they are the laughingstock of all of professional sports.
Plus, Tim Legler made a great point on the All-NBA podcast with Adam Mars. We have reached the point where here on out, every game they are going to get the other team's best. Nobody wants to be the team to lose to the Pistons and break this losing streak. Every team is going to be coming out with a playoff-like intensity night in and night out. It's going to take a magical night to grind out a win. Now, in all fairness, the Pistons themselves have been without big man Jalen Duren and point guard Monte Morris for a few weeks. Plus, veteran wing Bojan Bogdanovic has been out a majority of the season until recently, but regardless, there are still no excuses. Let's take a look at their peers, the Rockets and the Magic. All three franchises began rebuilding around the same time. In 2021, the Pistons had the #1 pick, the Rockets the 2nd, and the Magic the 5th. In 2022, the Pistons had the 5th, the Magic the 1st, and the Rockets the 3rd. And both the Pistons and the Rockets signed new head coaches this offseason. The Pistons signing Monty Williams to the most lucrative deal an NBA coach has ever signed, and the former Celtics coach Ime Udoka signing with the Rockets. But the Rockets and the Magic are not 2-25, but rather 13-12 and 16-11 respectively. So where did it all go wrong for the Pistons? And more importantly, how much irreparable damage are they doing to, in my opinion, a franchise cornerstone and future superstar, Cade Cunningham? This is Troy Weaver, hired on June 18th of 2020 to become the general manager of the Detroit Pistons. He was Sam Presti's right-hand man for years in Oklahoma City and was heralded as one of the brightest front office minds across the league before getting hired by the Pistons. The Detroit Free Press even went as far to have a headline saying the Pistons struck gold by hiring Troy Weaver. In his introductory press conference, Troy stated, "This isn't a rebuild, it's a restoring. There's been greatness here. The Motor City deserves a consistent winner back on the floor." But now here we are 4 years later, and during Weaver's tenure, the Detroit Pistons have went 62-202. That's a winning percentage of .306. Regardless of how great we thought he was going to be, it is extremely hard to not point a majority of the blame at Troy Weaver. But then on the other hand, you have owner Tom Gores, American billionaire businessman and the founder of Platinum Equity. He and his firm purchased the Detroit Pistons in 2011, and in 2015, he became the sole owner. Since Gores took over in 2011, the Pistons are 388 and 654, a winning percentage of .372. So definitely not much any better. But at the end of the day, it's hard to put blame on owners because what are they going to do about it? Fire themselves? Sell their own team? That's just not going to happen. And then when it comes to Cade Cunningham, I don't see how anyone is putting any blame on this young man. The Pistons have failed to put any type of consistent shooting around Cade and have often played both Marvin Bagley and Isaiah Stewart together on the floor with Cade, failing to provide the kind of spacing his type of game requires. JJ Redick echoed this on his podcast. After the loss to the Utah Jazz last night, Cade had this to say in the post-game presser. "Yeah, we're not 2-26 bad. No way are we that bad. So yes, I think we can turn it around. I think we can play a lot better brand of basketball than we're playing right now. Not as far as the system that we're playing or any of that, but just executing our game plans, taking care of the ball, and keeping guys in front of you. It has nothing to do with the system. That's just individual. That's the players. We have to be better about that. Tonight, I was the head of that snake by far. 6 turnovers, couldn't keep nobody in front of me. And while I appreciate Cade shouldering the blame, I'm sorry, but the one person I am not blaming for this streak and this awful situation is Cade Cunningham. I'm not saying he's without his faults. He turns the ball over too much. But if you put any 21-year-old with superstar potential in the exact situation he's in, outside of LeBron and maybe Luka, I don't see any of them having serious success. That's just how bad this Pistons team is. Cade is not the problem, and it is an absolute shame that for him and for us basketball fans that he's stuck there. To be honest, I have no idea what the Pistons should do. I don't know who they should trade for. I don't know how they make their situation better. However, this is an overall lesson, in my opinion, that I'm reminded of on how important it is to install a winning culture with your young superstars early in their career. Everyone crucified Tim Connolly when the Timberwolves traded for Rudy Gobert last summer. Chris Finch and Tim's goal with that trade, among others, was to establish a winning culture around Anthony Edwards at a young age. And look at him now. He is the superstar of the #1 seed in the Western Conference, tied for the best record in the NBA at just 22 years old. You don't think that affects him at 25 when Rudy is now a shell of his former self and Cat is 32 and beginning his decline as well? It 100% does. He has learned how to win at a young age and been able to grow and get playoff experience experience that will greatly shape the future of his career. And I feel really bad for Cade that he is lacking any type of winning at such a young age, because I think it really can severely damage him as he moves further into his career. JJ Redick and Tim Legler were talking about the psychology of losing in the NBA and the effects it has on a young player early in their career. Have a listen.
What you're thinking about and feeling about yourself as this game is about to start. It's more than just, hey, guys are young, go out, get your feet wet, improve as players. No, there's a whole nother layer to losing that permeates a locker room and a mentality and what it does to guys' psyche and their soul as a basketball player. When you're trying to win, like they're trying to compete.
Another interesting thing to come out of last night was Nerlens Noel's Instagram comments yesterday. He was a Piston last year, and he had this to say. Good group of players. The front office and coaches was hurting them boys last year. No BS. So you think last year's development doesn't correlate to this year? Chill, my son. They teach the wrong coverages, SMH. I was in shock half the time as a defensive player. And again, I'm not going to pretend like I know the intricacies of defensive coverages in the NBA, or that Nerlens Noel is even telling the truth, but it's intriguing to say the least. And the host of Locked On Pistons, Ku Khalil, heavily insinuated on his recent podcast that things were going on behind the scenes that he wasn't able to reveal. I have no freaking clue what that is, but it's concerning to say the least. And what I can gather from some local beat reporters is that it's some type of owner Tom Gores, general manager Troy Weaver, head coach Monty Williams not being on the same page at all, and even potentially not sabotaging, but stepping on each other's toes. Again, I have no idea what those details are, but it seems to be they're on very different pages, and stuff is going to be coming out soon about that. Regardless, Cade Cunningham is a potential superstar. Troy Weaver shouldn't be this bad of a GM, and Monty Williams isn't this bad of a coach. But if you're Pistons owner Tom Gores, I don't see what choices you have left but to fire both of them. If you want to continue following this Detroit Pistons saga, here's 4 guys on Twitter that I appreciate and I think do a very good job of covering the Detroit Pistons. If you enjoyed this video, check out the video I made on the Oklahoma City Thunder rebuild. Somehow, it's just beginning. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you on the hardwood.